Welcome back. We are live and we are here to help people that are looking for work. So if you are out there looking for work, feel free to drop me a note. Let me know. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. And that's kind of how this works. We basically just kind of shoot me questions via the comment box. Once you throw your question in there, I will do my best to try and answer it. We'll hang out here for a bit. We'll go for an hour if we got the questions. It usually takes people a little while to get in and get. Yeah, this is something we do on a fairly regular basis. So every Tuesday, super excited that we're very close to launching another cohort here at Creating Coding Careers. So I can touch on that a little bit for those of you that are watching the recordings of this at some point later on. So we have a registered apprenticeship program for software engineering, and we are super excited that later this week we're going to open up rolling cohorts and basically do away with the announcements about if we have openings, if we don't have openings, when we start people. So that will kick off later this week. So that will answer folks' questions as to like, when can I get into the program? Very soon we're going to open up, and then it'll be on an ongoing basis. So that's very exciting because I know a lot of people are curious, and many people, whenever we open it up, sign up and apply. And it's been sort of like a long work in progress to get us to the point where we can actually just do, rolling cohorts. So it's exciting. So if you have a question, feel free to post a comment, and that will come to me directly, and then be more than happy to try and answer it for you. You can also send me an email, mike@cccareers.org. That's our website, cccareers.org. Great place to find out more information about the work that we do. Not yet a great place to find out about the apprenticeships because we're still working on those pages. So we'll get those up. But that was part of the migration process when we kind of shifted our operations from our for-profit Centenary Code School over to our nonprofit organization, Creating Coding Careers. So in that shuffle, we kind of paused because we haven't had an open cohort. And now that we have a new cohort coming, we're going to move some of those pages up so that there's more content for people to review. Super excited about partnerships that we have that are forming with Microsoft, San Diego Workforce Partners, ServiceNow. There's just a ton of stuff that we've got that I think is going to make a measurable impact here in the San Diego ecosystem and well beyond. So we are excited. At least I am. And I take by a lack of participation that the labor shortage is real, that there's not as many people that are out there looking for work, because I am seeing lots and lots of people that are, getting offers, lots more employers saying they're looking for talent and having a hard time finding it. So that gives me optimism that we're making those connections and people are getting into shops. If you're not, ask questions, tell your friends. If they're looking for work, if they're struggling, they should be jumping on this every week and asking questions and figure out like, what is it going to take? Because I'm hearing from many, many employers that they are struggling to find talent. So what's your take? Drop a comment. Let me know. What do you think? Are we at that point where there is a true labor shortage in tech, or is it just slow day on LinkedIn? I don't know. But we're across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. So feel free, if any of those places, if you drop a comment, it will come directly to me, and I'll take my best shot at answering those questions. I have a few that actually came through, so I'll be able to kind of rip through those. But I want to make sure that if anybody has any and they want them answered live, I can do that, as well as pull up the ones that we had come in over the break. So while we're waiting on those questions to come in, there's a couple that came in before. This is a real common one, and I've gotten this a lot before as well. So what is the best job search resource or job board to follow? So for a lot of folks, the common ones like Indeed and ZipRecruiter, if you're not already getting notifications on ZipRecruiter, those are going to surface, because they're kind of like aggregators, those are going to surface a lot of other jobs that are on other boards elsewhere. But I would not, I repeat, not NOT, do not rely on that, because only a fraction of all open jobs are ever going to make it there. they are almost always going to be opened up first to internal people, and they'll say, hey, if you're interested in this position, we have it open. Next, they'll usually ask the developers, hey, if you know anybody, let them know. I call those pocket listings, right? They're just not listed anywhere. So instead of worrying about and staying focused on like, every day I need to check these sites and I need to be looking here, 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 I would focus on the bigger picture, which is what are the dream companies you'd like to work at? Make a list of those, 5, 10 companies that you really, no matter what, you'd always want to be working at one of those outfits. And then be going to their website and checking to see what opportunities exist on their website, as well as reaching out, making connections, and create an opportunity, even if a listing is not available right now. So really, again, making sure that you're not relying on these resources. And then to me, the best resource is actually none of the common ones. It's not the Indeed. It's LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, I think, is a huge resource and could be one of the best job board / resources that's available. All the other ones, they're good, they're great, but they're just everywhere, and there's a very small volume. So I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on like, these are the boards I need to go to. When you've already exhausted all the others, sure, right? If you are doing a great job elsewhere, great, jump on a Craigslist and see if there's anything local that's of interest to you. Jump on the Monsters and the Dice but I think you'll get 90% or more of what's available if you just jump on LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter as far as like the job boards are concerned, right? If you're looking for job board specific location, those would be the two that I think a vast majority of folks are leveraging. So I just had a question coming from Stephanie, and that's a good one. How did you develop the skill of speaking so engagingly in front of groups? I just did it. I didn't always, I still don't feel very, I'm a socially awkward feeling person, so you might not believe that, but even when I was a DJ, I used to hate talking to people. So I was fine standing on stage and performing, but I really didn't want to talk. I was very shy. I didn't want to talk to any, guests or any people, so it was like, it was pretty easy to piss me off in that regard, because I was just like, I didn't want to have relationships with people. So I was just like, all right, sure, I got it. So that said, part of it, I kind of figured out that, like, think of it like a performance. Think of it as like, it's just your job to share information, try and do it in the best way you possibly can, and divorce yourself from having to worry about, like, what are people thinking? What are, are they going to respond? Am I going to be able to answer correctly? Am I going to look dumb? I think those are the thoughts that a lot of people have that make it hard for them to speak in front of a group, and then just lots and lots of practice doing it, right? So for a long time, I've been a huge fan of going to meetups and giving lightning talks. So if you haven't yet been able to deliver a talk and you feel not so comfortable speaking in front of groups, push yourself, get out there and do a 5-minute lightning talk and give yourself the opportunity to practice speaking technically in front of a group of, highly skilled folks. And I think that will really, really help, because it's just reps. It's just practice. And that would be, my advice would be just do it, right? And then you'll get better at it over time. Over time, you'll figure out, okay, there's actually ways that you can prepare really well for delivering a talk, in ways that you can, open your talk and get audience participation, ways to kind of close and get people to a call to action, all those kinds of things. I tend to not do any of those like form stuff. I just do the, what questions, and then I'm more than happy to answer, what people are looking for. So, hey, Samita, it's good to see you. And looks like you're on YouTube. That's cool. All right, couple more questions that came through over the break. What would be the most important thing to avoid? And I'm assuming during an interview, but it just doesn't say. It just says most important things to avoid. So I would say, yeah, let's talk interview. First and foremost, the thing that is, it's not really a technical thing. It's just more of you want to be engaging with the interviewers. So try to not avoid being desperate. Avoid coming across as like, I'll take anything, any kind of role, doesn't matter. I just need a job. I'll sweep the floor. Like that, to me, as a technical person, it's so antithetical to what I want to do, which is I want to find a good solid fit, and I want to find a person that wants to develop and get better every day. And I know it may, to some folks, communicate a sense of you're willing to work hard and pay your dues. But for a lot of other folks like myself, I look at it like maybe it's just too much of a shotgun approach and you're just a little too desperate, and instead focus in on what would be a good fit for you, for your stage of your development right now as a software engineer. What are some things that you need to be able to thrive in an environment for you to get some additional reps and get some additional experience? So trying to avoid the desperation. That's one main thing I would try and avoid in any of your communication and your interviews, etc. The second would be avoid responding in a negative way or like allowing them to pull you into a negative situation. So even if they ask you tell me about a project that completely failed, you don't want to be disingenuous about how, well, every time there's a failure, I learn from the experience, but you do want to be able to at least mention these were the takeaways, right? So rather than giving that sweeping generalization of every failure is an experiment that didn't go well that I learned from, give a tangible example of here's what happened. And my way of responding to it was to, in the back of my mind now, I know here are some red flags and some warnings, and here are some things I do differently to be proactive. Just give the tangible results instead of the fluff and the puffery around every failed project is an experiment. Like nobody wants to hear that. At least I want to hear it backed up with substance. And then the last thing to avoid would be avoid the lack of follow-up, right? So it's the opposite of avoid, but just follow up, right? If you are in an interview scenario and you're not following up, then 9 times out of 10, it's just that little extra bit that would separate you from everyone else, that would distinguish you because you've taken the time and made the effort to give hey, love to touch bases about the interview process and continue the conversation. Whatever the hook is for you to get back into and have another conversation with the person, right? Because I'll tell you, I've interviewed lots of people. I've interviewed lots of people recently, and we always strive to provide feedback. So when people ask for feedback, we're more than happy to provide feedback. Sometimes they don't even ask. I'll interview someone and then weeks will go by and they'll be like, hey, just wanted to see. And it's like, don't let weeks go by. A week is fine. The next week you can say, hey, we had a great conversation last week. Wanted to know, what are some next steps that I could be taking to continue to, express my interest in this position. Here's what I've done since last week. Right? Don't let 3 weeks go by. That tells me maybe you're not that interested, or maybe you're not that gritty, right? You're not that diligent. You're not that detail oriented. Maybe you're super busy doing other things and the job search isn't that important. And this job is not a priority to you. There's a bunch of things that I can fill my brain with in terms of reasons why you're not following up. So just follow up. You want to avoid just dropping the ball. That's super huge. Okay. I see no other questions here, so I have to remind people constantly while I'm talking. Great time to type out your questions in the comment box. So drop a comment, and then that will come directly to me as a way to interact two-way, and then I'll do my best to answer that question. We do this every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific. I realize that's a little later in the day for the folks on the East Coast, but we experimented with times, and this turned out to be the one that most people were just on it. So we'll continue to do this every Tuesday, and we'll continue to do it at 12 p.m. Pacific. All right. Please ask your questions. I love them. A couple other ones that came through. What is the best way to get to know an interviewer? Okay. So this is part of that, researching a company, right? So when you are you've teed up an interview opportunity, and this mostly works when you know who's going to be on the interviewing panel. But a lot of times, even sometimes people are like, well, I don't know who's going to be on the panel. Well, did they send you an invite? Is there an email of a person on the invite? See if you can figure out who it is, right? You don't have to be, Sherlock Holmes, but you should be able to figure out, okay, this person works on this team. Find them on LinkedIn, figure out what they do, and get to know a little bit about that person, right? super helpful for you to be able to, as a part of our culture, our Western culture, be able to do a little shop talk, right? But also do a little like personal connecting with the individual at the beginning of the interview or towards the end of the interview. So I always want to see, is there a way that I can bring some commonality, something that I have in common with somebody else? So if I see someone like biking, oh man, we're going there at some point during the conversation. We're going to talk about some bikes, right? And so that's one of the things that, again, just distinguishes you from other candidates. Did you take the time to research the organization, to research the person? And so start there. Start with LinkedIn. People will usually put a bunch of information that like kind of helps you understand who they are on their LinkedIn. Go to the company page and look at the About Us. Please go to the About Us. People are like, well, I don't know what the company does. Do they have a corporate website? Do they have an About Us page? Right? And 9 times out of 10 they do. What's their mission? What is their vision? Understand how their mission and vision are two different things. So, try and glean from that. What is it about this company that makes it some place that you'd like to work? And be able to clearly articulate that. Especially with all these interviews being remote right now, you have the advantage to have all of this pre-planned, right? You can have a little script. You're like, okay, I'm going to hit this talking point. When we get to this part, I'm going to hit this talking point, and you can just be on it, right? So take the time to really prepare, right? Take the time for you to really know, this is who I'm going to be interviewing with, and can I create a connection even in that short conversation with that person? Veronica Place, one of my favorite new folks. Stop by, listen to your podcast. Thanks for all you're doing. Looking forward to learning more about how I can support you. Yes, we are so excited. So Veronica Place is one of those great ecosystem folks in the Microsoft ecosystem space. So we're super excited to be moving more into, we're a Microsoft shop now, moving more into the ecosystem and helping more businesses with like Dynamics and SharePoint and like all the amazing, phenomenal stuff inside of the Microsoft ecosystem. Huge fans. I think we switched, I want to say 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and it's a little painful because the Microsoft and Google worlds they're not like a Venn diagram where there's a lot of overlap. They're like separate. But the Microsoft ecosystem, for those of you that are thinking about it, thinking about a career, man, they are so well integrated together. Like all the different tools, everything just kind of works really well together. So we are super excited to be embarking upon learning more about how can we help and support developers looking for a career in the Microsoft ecosystem. ServiceNow, we're huge ServiceNow fans. So Microsoft and ServiceNow working together on some stuff. So I like seeing that. It's like, getting the band back together, getting some good folks working on good stuff. I like that. So yeah, thanks, Veronica. I love seeing you stopping by. And yeah, if I can be helpful in any way, building these ecosystems out, please reach out. Any other questions? I know I talk a lot and then people are forgetting to type their questions. And it takes a little while when I say, all right, I'm going to wrap things up if no one's talking. And then they all flood in. So if anybody has any questions, feel free, drop them in there. I know it takes about a minute or two for me to see the comment, for me to be able to respond to it. So you got to kind of hang with me. But we had a few other questions come through. I think I covered 1, 2, 3. Best way to get it. Okay. Ooh. This is not. Should I embellish or exaggerate my experience? Every place wants more experience. Like, well, yeah. So everybody wants experience. No, you should not embellish your experience. So don't exaggerate. Don't add to, hey, I'm more experienced than you actually are, because it's super obvious, first of all, right? And it will immediately create a situation where I don't have trust, and you can't build trust if from the very beginning the person is like being deceptive or trying to like mislead you. I'm perfectly fine because I hire a lot of people that are early career developers. And so folks that are looking for early career developers are perfectly fine with the fact that you don't have 10 years of experience. If you don't have 10 years of experience, that's not a good fit for you. That environment is going to probably be very, very difficult for you to thrive in if you don't have that level of experience. But organizations that are willing to invest in people and want to bring someone on, they want someone that is going to be candid, is going to share. This is where I am right now, and I am super excited and looking forward to learning X, Y, and Z, or being in this ecosystem because I love doing this. I love working with that, right? So you want to be 100% genuine and honest. And the more transparent, the more vulnerable you can be in the process, the better off you're going to be. Because I want to know when someone doesn't know something, just tell me that you don't know so I can help you as quickly as possible. Learn that so that you can, get over that hump and get unstuck and move forward. So if during the interview process, I feel like there's a lack of candor, that is a tough one for me to ever come back with and ever at any stage consider the employment of that person if I feel like they're not being super truthful. And it could get annoying enough that I'll just ask really hard and really make the experience less than pleasant. So if I feel like someone's lying about their experience, I might just ask them harder and harder questions, right? So like make it easy by just saying, well, this, and sometimes people will say, well, I'm not 100% sure. And that's fine. You can say, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what that means is this to me, right? And then, yeah, that's actually how that works. Awesome. All right, cool. You got it. So I love this. Veronica, 100% true. Take action, right? No matter what it is, just like do it. So a lot of folks are looking for perfection and they're expecting like, I don't want to put this out there. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to do anything because it's not perfect yet or it's not finished yet. That's the enemy of progress. You need to put stuff out there. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be a little bit uncomfortable. And I can tell you what, this is just one of those spaces where everybody has to be pushing the comfort zone to get better, right? So get used to it. If you're uncomfortable, get used to it. Never goes away. Another question that has come through: what is more important, LinkedIn or resume? I don't think it's binary. First of all, I think they're both very important, and I think there's two schools of thought here. And I think you do have to have both, and they have to both be in good shape. I think it's irresponsible for me to say you can do an aggressive and efficient job search today without a good LinkedIn profile. I think it's essential. It's almost as essential or more essential than a resume. And I think on the other side, people are like, well, what if I just have a really solid LinkedIn profile? Do I need a resume still? Can I just send people to my LinkedIn? Nope. Because it's just a classic tool that people will use. I know that when we were screening candidates in certain scenarios, we would use it as a way to kind of like get everybody internally on the same page as to who the candidate is. So we'd make sure everyone got a copy of the resume before the interview. So you're going to create more work for folks if like, okay, I need to print off their LinkedIn page and use that. Like you've just created a friction point and you've made it a little bit harder for them to get to know you and to share your information among the decision makers. So I'd say both equally important. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other. It's kind of like different tools for different jobs, right? One is to help you be able to be found more digitally, right? That's the LinkedIn, create connections. That's like how you establish relationships with folks. It is a social network. Keyword there, social, right? And then the resume is more of a, this is me putting on paper who and what my background is so I can easily transfer that knowledge to other people. So LinkedIn kind of does a little bit of both, as well as your resume kind of does a little bit of both. But really, you want to use LinkedIn to like connect with folks and have conversations with folks and get into groups and make sure that you're interacting and like posting content and commenting on other people's content, right? Being social. And that's tough for some software engineers. And I struggle with it, but you gotta push through. It's part of the process. You gotta push through. All right, so hopefully that helps with that. Any other questions coming in live? I'm not seeing very much live action. Are we broken? Is that what's happening today? I see Veronica's posting. I don't know the rest of you folks, but I get it. Yeah, I don't know who from a partner in DC and I'm in San Diego. Then I learned Mike do some news. Yep, small world, in fact, especially here in San Diego. So. Couple other questions that came through. I have an interview this week. What should I do to prepare? I love that. I get that a lot from folks. I've got an interview tomorrow. What do I need to do? relax, because it's not like a test you can cram for at the last minute. There could be some areas that you could brush up on, right? So if you know, hey, I got an interview this week and it's with an organization and it's going to be doing a lot of like SQL and whatnot. It's like, okay, cool. Then just brush up on some SQL, spend an afternoon doing some queries. Most important tip I would have is like, if you have an interview at any point in the future, you should be coding. You should be practicing. You should be like, don't assume, oh, I haven't coded in a week. I'll be good though during the interview. It'll be fine. Nope. Make sure that you're doing your passion projects, but more importantly, spend a good day or two just coding, not stressing yourself out, right? So I'm not talking about doing a bunch of code challenges on like HackerRank or Project Euler. I'm talking about just working on some passion projects, right? Warming yourself up a little bit. It would be as if you were going to go out and you're going to do like a timed mile and you just decide, I'm not going to do any stretching. I'm not going to do any warm-ups. I'm just going to like show up cold on the track and just gun goes off. I'm just going to start running. It's not good. So, make sure that you don't crush yourself the night before though. So it's not like the day before you can like put in a bunch of work and get yourself caught up. It's just not possible. So I'd say coding, right? Spending some time actually putting your hands on the keyboard and coding a little bit. What else can you do to prepare? Make sure you get the research. Make sure that you've got some talking points, some things that you want to be able to sort of like put out there to help folks understand that like you've done the research, you know who it is, you know why this is a great fit for you, why you're going to add a lot of value to this organization, right? So if you're worried or concerned about the technical parts, then just prepare for the soft skill part so you can make sure you at least crush on the soft skills portion, right? I don't want to say cultural fit because I don't like the vibe on cultural fit. I like to say more like, okay, this is the kind of organization that like it fits your work style, it fits your learning style, it fits all of the other things that you're looking for in terms of a place where you feel well supported, where you feel you can bring your authentic self to work every day. If that's the vibe, if you feel like that's the kind of organization that you're interviewing at, awesome. Make sure you let them know that's part of your decision. Part of the reason why you want to work at the company is because you've heard all of these amazing things about how well they are doing in terms of cultural competency. That's a better use of the word, cultural competency. They got a high level of cultural competence. They're a very inclusive environment. You feel like you belong. That's a great word to use during an interview. Belong. I belong in your organization. And here's why. X, Y, Z. Belonging. Then you get to hit both. You get to hit both the cultural competency angle as well as you start subliminally sort of inserting yourself as like, hey, I belong in this organization. I like that. Veronica adds, be confident, ask lots of questions, be friendly, be open, be willing to learn. What have you learned in the last 30 days? What have you learned since I asked this, it's almost the first question. I'm going to give away one of the questions I asked during interviews. Almost every interview I start with, what have you either learned or done since hearing about this job opportunity? I'm super curious about that because I want to know, like, this, if someone says, as soon as I learned about this, I researched ServiceNow because I'd never heard of them before. And now I'm excited about, and it's just like, nice. I like that. I like the fact that this job has made an impact already. You're not even hired yet, and it's already made an impact on you. So 100% be willing to learn. Isaiah, I think that's it. Isaiah, would you recommend applying for a startup or mid-sized company instead of a big company if you're applying for a junior dev role? I think you'll find more volume available, right? I think you'll see that more startup organizations they're more flexible, more agile. They're usually smaller in number, so that because they have a smaller head count, it's easier for them to make decisions that are based on fewer people having to sign off and check the box. As the company gets larger, then you might notice that they're a little bit more rigid in their hiring processes. And that's where they might say, no, you don't have like the mandatory 3 years of experience for this position, or you don't have the college degree, or some of those other boxes. So you might find that you have more volume available at the smaller or mid-sized companies. Now, that doesn't mean I would recommend against applying for the larger enterprise organizations. I still think they're great places for you to apply for if you're a good fit in that organization, and if that organization is open to hiring more entry-level developers. I think a lot of folks just don't think about the fact that like some organizations are not going to be great places for people that are non-traditional, like students that did not go to a CS degree program, have a less than traditional way that they became skilled and learn how to code. They might flat out say, we don't hire bootcamp students, right? So if any of those things meet your background, then you just want to be aware of that as you're applying for the jobs and try and tailor, okay, if I'm going to apply for 10 jobs a week, which is usually the volume that I recommend, about 10 a week, then make sure that you're applying for about the right ratio of, you should be applying for more startup and midsize than large companies, because there just are not going to be the same volume of those opportunities available. So hopefully that answers. I don't want people to feel like you shouldn't apply for large organizations. I just think that you should, instead of thinking about, I'm going to apply for only large organizations or only small organizations or only mid-sized organizations, across the board, there are going to be opportunities to each of them, and they're going to vary a little bit. So the other thing that I think sometimes people will ask in this is not necessarily about, because they're transitioning. A lot of folks are transitioning from one industry or type of job to tech. When they transition, they come maybe from like an old school thought where it's like, you go work for a big company, you put your 10, 15 years in, and then, second career, or you can retire, whatever the number is necessary for that space. And it's not quite the same with tech. And so I think a lot of folks have to kind of adjust their mindset and their mentality with, you're going to be constantly learning in tech. So it's okay to work at a small, scrappy startup because you're going to learn lots of things and wear lots of hats. And it's also great to work at a large organization where you get some of that comfort and security, but you're never really that secure in working for a large tech company, because they can turn on a dime and eliminate what you're working on and eliminate that job. Now, it's not a huge deal once you pass your first job, because you can get a job anywhere, software engineer, right? There is a labor shortage. It is a real thing. So you're going to be fine, but it may mean that you're going to be moving. So you shouldn't think like, oh, I'm going to work for a big company, I'm going to work there for 15 years. Probably not. It's probably not the route. So yeah, I would consider more about like, what is your thought process about working at small, mid, or large company versus like the number of them that you should apply to or not apply to. I would apply across the board to organizations that you think would be good fits. Start with one. Who are companies that are on that wish list of like, I'd love to work for one of these organizations? Apply for those ones first. Try and create opportunities there first. Then move into, okay, there's probably a lot of startups. There's probably way more startups than mid-sized and large companies that are open to hiring early career developers. So let me look in the local area and see, what do I qualify for? What am I good fit for? What's the industry in the space that you live? And now, because we're a lot of remote, what are some remote opportunities that you could look into and work on a distributed team instead of working in person, right? So a lot of options. Hopefully that helps, Isaiah. Hopefully, if that doesn't answer your question, feel free to post another one. It's kind of a general, large question, but I like it. And it does come up a lot. People are not necessarily super sure if it's even worth it to apply at a large company. The other downside to the smaller companies is that the smaller companies sometimes don't have as much experience, and they can be less, let's call them less professional. So they might say, oh, we want you to start as an intern. It's an unpaid internship opportunity, or we're going to let you get some experience. And it's like, no. We don't do that. Not in 2021. At least not, it's not what I advise. Others may advise differently, but I think there's enough paid work out there where you can find paid work. And if you cannot find paid work, you could work on your own passion projects. I just don't feel like there's enough of a need for you to be working for other people for free. Beyond the fact that it's not legal. There's that piece too. So yeah, if you're a company, stop doing those unpaid internships. It's time for you to invest a little. Generally speaking, just generally speaking to the public of organizations, if you invest in folks, if you invest even beyond internships, if you invest in the apprenticeship pattern and you provide folks a guided, like, look, we do a really good job of vetting folks, we do a really good job of developing talent, and then we convert them into our organization, and we create a win for both sides, employees and the employer, the company. If you're thinking about making some adjustments, that's what I would adjust to. The apprenticeship pattern. If you're not yet doing internships, just skip that whole level of learning. Go straight to apprenticeship. And you don't have to do it on your own. You can hire somebody like us. We have great turnkey options for folks that would like to do an apprenticeship and just aren't sure, do they have the appetite internally to hire program managers and to work with city and state governments and to do all those pieces. We've outsourced the entire process. And we literally, you can contact us, we can identify candidates, get them trained, and then have them working embedded on your team. And it's just a contract to hire. And then there's no conversion cost. You just convert them when you're ready. So if you're an employer and you're thinking about the pattern, please reach out. Even if you decide that we're not a good fit, I'm more than happy to talk to you about the apprenticeship pattern and see if it can help you find some solutions to some of the labor shortage. I like these tips. Veronica's got some good ones today. Be authentic, be confident. So that's back to the response I had to the person before that said things to avoid. That's the anti-desperation. Is confidence. Just be confident. Yeah, they might find a position for you, and it's not always about those technical skills. It's much more about the soft skills, your capacity, the grit that you have, things that you may be able to, transferable skills that you can bring to the table. It's less about, can you write SQL queries, and it's much more about, can you solve the problem that the business has. And in this case, it might be I need to think about a SQL query, and I need to put my little Googling skills to the test, and I need to throw it in Google, see what the results are, or Bing. Bing's just as good. There's nothing wrong with Bing. All right. Any other questions? I feel like it's slowing down a little bit. I feel like I ripped through every one of the ones that came through over the break. I even touched on one that we just talked about, soft skills. So soft skills are where it's at. Whenever I talk about what do you need to employers, they're always telling me the same things. We need good communication. We need people that are teamwork. We need problem solving. They never say, we need people that can write SQL queries. They never say that. I think the assumption is they're like, if a person doesn't know how to do that, we can just teach them that part. That part's not hard. But being a good person, that's tough. So they want to know that you've got those core essential worker skills. Rolling cohorts I'm talking about in the beginning, was that related to the code school or the apprenticeship program? So right now we're not really operating San Diego Code School. San Diego Code School at this point is basically, we're not operating it. There's no students. We're not operating any classes. There are some free courses that we still have online with the Code School. Right now, everything that we're doing, my exclusive focus right now, beyond being on LinkedIn right now live, is growing our apprenticeship program through our nonprofit. And so the announcements and all that will now be through the nonprofit, will be through Creating Coding Careers. There may be something we do in the future via San Diego Code School, but that's not right now. Right now, our main focus is trying to create more apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship patterns. So the cohorts that we're talking about are related to Creating Coding Careers, and we'll make another formal announcement later this week. But it's going to be easier for people to, at any point in time, just begin the process and start, like, while they're waiting to hear feedback, start working on the skills that will take for them to be successful in the industry. And that's really the main shift behind it. Is a lot of folks, as soon as I say we don't have an open cohort, they just like shut down. It's like, well, I can't hire everybody all the time. So the best thing for you to do is keep preparing, to keep pushing every day and getting ready, so that when there is an opportunity, you're on top of it, right? You can already be on the list, you can already be in the queue, and you can be ready to go as soon as there's an opportunity. So that's what we're trying to create more of. Hopefully that answers your question, Hannah. Then rather than it being like we thought we were going to do another cohort in the winter. It's no longer winter, and people keep, I don't want to say sending me hate mail. People are just like, when is the next cohort? And it's like, soon is my answer for the last 8 months. So soon is like later this week. So, and like I said, we'll make a formal announcement. So anybody that's signed up in the past that's seeing this, hopefully by the time you see this recording, you will have already gotten the email notification saying, this is what we're doing moving forward. Should be exciting, at least for candidates to be able to not have to worry about when it's going to open up. We'll just always be available. And hopefully that clarifies. I know there's a lot of confusion between like San Diego Code School and creating coding careers, but now we're really operating as two completely separate. Before there was a partnership, there's really no need for us to have two organizations. So we're exclusively focused now on creating coding careers. It's always the same humans involved in most of the workings between the two, but now, yeah, the nonprofit is kind of exciting. We've hired a couple more folks, a couple more project manager, and who else? Data engineer. So, yeah, it's good times. Any other questions? I think we went pretty long today, 42 minutes. And I think the long break gave people time to like write me questions. So that's good. So you can write questions, shoot them to me via email. The email is mike@cccareers.org, and where you can join live. And we'll do this every week. And unless there's a question in the next like 60 seconds or so, I'm going to skedaddle and eat lunch. Having Chinese today, if anybody's interested. A little egg foo young, which is surprisingly difficult to get here on the West Coast. At least good egg foo young. So if anybody has any egg foo young suggestions in San Diego, I am all ears. The only place that I know does it really well and does it kind of like the East Coast takeout is oh man, what is the name of it? I think it's I gotta look it up. So we'll give people a chance to. I will do that, Veronica. Absolutely. We just call it in the household. We just call it Miramar Chinese because it's on Miramar Road. So there's a Chinese spot in Miramar Road. Been going there for years. Chongqing. That place is good. So if you're over there on Miramar Road, 7160 Miramar Road, do not pass that spot up. They got really good Chinese. They are super old school. They don't take credit cards. They're just like no credit cards, no substitutions on the combos. You get the combos the way the combos are. But it's good. All right, I'm going to take off. Yeah, Convoy is another one. Let's not get started on. I just wrecked the whole afternoon for folks. All we were doing is talk about Chinese. I agree. Convoy has some awesome Chinese food. So, all right, that's it. See y'all.